So a big thank you to Stuart Ashens. He's internet sensation, I'll put it that way, because I've been watching your videos for a little while, and I will admit I have a chuckle at them every time. And my favourite one to date, and I believe it's quite a recent one, the Screwball Scramble add-on.
Oh,
Was
what a
that,
find. What a
yeah.
find.
Yeah. I don't know if you did do it recently, but Screwball Scramble played a massive part of my childhood. And then to find out that there was a add-on, and a relatively modern add-on, I will admit, isn't it? Yeah, blew my mind, sorry. And then I watched another one recently, which I think is a few years old. It's when you built a computer from Wish
Oh,
items.
yes. I've got an entire streaming setup from Wish now, and I'm still putting off doing it because I'm certain something's going to catch fire, but we'll see.
All the way through. So I run a triathlon channel on the side. That's not very successful at all. And I looked at doing an episode where I bought as many items related to triathlon off Wish, and 50% of them didn't turn up, and then of the 50 that turned up, I'd be damned if I'd ever use them. So I couldn't do the video.
I'm so lucky. I was going to say everything always turns up. That's not true. I ordered an entire gaming computer for this streaming video from AliExpress. Never turned up. Had to get the money back. 6 months I was waiting for that.
So I know you've been talking to Adam over the last couple of weeks, and he's probably been twisting your arm to come on and do an episode for us. So again, thank you for that. But the film we've chosen is Stone Cold, and I will admit it was not one I was familiar with. So I watched this a couple of nights ago, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Not enough to just watch Stone Cold, you then join the religion as soon as you've seen it.
But I will say I enjoyed this. There's huge caveats in this, and I'll throw it out straight away before we go into sort of your memories and Adam's memory of it. I think this film probably came 5 to 10 years too late. If it had come a lot earlier, it probably would have been a lot well known. So I leave it at that, and no doubt we'll come on to it. But Stu, if you start, what's your memories of the film?
So I only saw it the first time, about a year ago. I have a group of friends. We watch very odd and often very bad films. And occasionally they would mention Stone Cold as being like the absolute pinnacle of the best thing they ever sort of discovered while watching this stuff. And so eventually I thought, I really must watch it. And of course they were absolutely right, which is why when I'd mentioned it to Adam, he hadn't seen it. I was just like, you must watch this film, Adam. You must watch this film, Adam. You know, driving to his house and waking him up at 3 a.m. and screaming Stone Cold in his face. If you're into this kind of stuff, you have to see this film. As you say, it's beyond the time it should have existed. It's when you get that thing of people saying, oh, wouldn't it have been interesting if 80s action films had kind of continued on, but it all sort of took a turn just before the 90s, didn't it? Well, with Stone Cold, it didn't. This list lives in sort of this other alternate dimension where 80s action films never stopped until they reached Stone Cold, which is kind of the pinnacle of such nonsense. And it had all the budget as well.
I do think they hit Stone Cold, and that's the point that Hollywood probably went, yeah, we should probably stop doing 80s action films.
They'd stopped 2 years before, I think. Just nobody told Bosworth's mullet, you know.
Come on, Ad, what about you? Well, yeah, I know you maybe you saw it a little bit later. But
yeah.
What's your memories?
Yeah, me and Stu were I think we were doing a couple of recordings for The Vale, and we just got talking about films, basically, like he just said. And he just mentioned Stone Cold. I didn't know. And then on his high recommendation, I just bought her off eBay for £5, and I didn't read anything about her at all. And what I will say before we start getting into the film, and I said this to Prague as well, when it came to watching it, I was a bit like, this is going to be one of those crappy films where there's like 2 or 3 good bits and the rest is shit. But I was wrong. I was very wrong. I was very wrong.
And Prague being the sort of the memory bank that you are, because Stuart should know this. So a lot of my life has grown up around Prague. We went to school together, we went to university together. So I often have to check in with Prague on my own memories. So I say, Prague, did this happen, or am I remembering it? So Prague's a little bit like Rain Man in that sense. Prague, had you heard of it before?
No, not.
How have we never heard of this film?
I think we're going to get into that later on, because I had a look at, well, I did a little bit of research for once on the background and the aftermath of the film. So I think there may be some reasons why it didn't take off, but I'd never heard of it before, never seen it. I knew the lead actor because I'm an American football fan, so I was aware of the Boz, Brian Bosworth, and I was also aware of his previous mullets. But yeah, when we sat down to watch it on Friday, me and Adam, he was a bit sort of trepidatious about it, and I was like, I've ribbed Adam a couple of times about this. I'm gonna say it on live on air. After the couple of films he's made me watch over the last few weeks, I wasn't looking forward to it, but I was pleasantly surprised.
I had a proper guilty pleasure moment with this film. Is it the greatest film in the world? No, by any stretch of the imagination. But Jesus Christ, at times did I really enjoy it. It's brilliant.
It could be one of the greatest films of all time.
I think it's simultaneously the best action film ever made and the worst action film ever made. It exists as this sort of bizarre point of light. It's a color from outer space. It's something us in this dimension aren't used to seeing. I'd
go along with that, Stu, because I think what you're getting at there's certain things happening in a film where you're like, this shouldn't be happening, or in a normal serious film you'd be like, you'd check out. But because the film is so entertaining, you don't care.
That's exactly it. Yep, it creates its own little bubble of reality, and you just grab onto the back of Bosworth's mullet for the ride.
So we move on to favourite aspect, right? And I'll give my first impression of the film. So you start watching it, and it's the scene that's in the supermarket. And the way it was shot, and at times the way that those bad guys overacted, I was thinking, oh, we've got a film probably very similar to Cobra here in its look, in its, maybe the darkness of it. And then what's his name in it? Is it Joe Hoff or something?
Joe Huff.
Yes.
Yeah. His character comes in, and I couldn't take my eyes off the mullet, and two, I couldn't take my eyes off his actual like rain jacket, Mac or whatever. And then it goes to the line where the scene where he tries the cookie, but he looks around first to make sure no one's around. He tries it, and then someone puts a gun in his face, and he goes, I was going to pay for that. And I was thinking, oh, I know what sort of film we got here. And it's not going to be a Cobra-esque film.
When this scene started, I was a bit like, here we go. They were shooting Ritz crackers for no reason with a machine gun. And then the thing with the clincher for me in that scene was the closing line.
The closing line is amazing.
You got to
what that is, remind me.
Clean up on aisle 4.
Oh, yes.
Can I ask you guys a question with regard to the first scene? Because I'm not in on the first scene, but that's the only thing I'm not in on. Because I don't think that scene is played like the rest of the film is.
No, it does feel like it's been glued on from another film.
I think they were just looking for a way to introduce Joe Huff.
Yeah.
In that sort of hero way.
It's almost like your James Bond in media res opening, isn't it? Oh, here's he is in his last mission, sets him up for what he's like, and now, here he is away.
Can I just say, I want us to try and find out how many times Joe Huff has been compared to James Bond.
Well, constantly because of the hair. Yeah.
once on this part, and it was just then 2 seconds.
Yes.
Well, the other thing I wanted to know is why he was suspended, because they didn't necessarily touch on it, did they?
I think I'm just going to go on a limb here. I think Joe Huff does a few things not exactly by the book.
Yeah, I think excessive violence is probably the answer to that. Yeah, in all walks of life.
Yeah, I think the end of the film is a clear indication of what happened previously, perhaps.
Yeah.
The thing that clinched it for me though, the entire film, the thing that sold me on it, like aside from the opening, because when he said you've got to clean up on Alpha, I did laugh. I thought, okay, and then you had the big ripping metal guitar riff come on. I was like, okay, this is kind
it
of
goes a bit Lethal Weapon, doesn't it? As soon as he says the line, I half expected no Lethal Weapon when the saxophone comes in. Half expected something like that.
For me though, it was definitely playing William Tell with a can of beer and an Uzi in the opening titles. That was what sold it for me. I was like, yes.
That guitar riff was glorious. I mean that saved the punchline, and the guitar riff saved the opening scene for me. I was sort of brought back in. I was like, okay, this might be salvageable, this film, and then of course it just took off from there. Yeah, it really switches up the gear after that.
Oh my God, doesn't it ever?
What I'll do is I don't mind like listing a couple of my favorite elements, and then maybe we can bounce off that if you want. So, of course, the mullet. I'm sure that'll be brought up a number of times.
But it's not just the mullet. It's the highlights within the mullet. They are something special.
Yeah.
It's the density of mullet. It's not just a mullet. There's layers of mullet.
Well, it's also a feathered mullet.
Yes.
Which I found particularly interesting. Given that, I'm sure the mullet went in the late 80s. So maybe like this film, it was slightly behind the times in terms of popularity and success and so on.
I did spot something in the opening scene, which might mean it was filmed in the tail end of the 80s.
Okay.
There was Batman cereal on the shelves.
Oh, 1989. Yeah.
So, Batman 98 on 89, get my numbers the right way around, came out in December, didn't it? December 98?
Yes, that's true. Actually, if it's released in 91, you probably would have been shooting it in 1990. So
yeah. And also, you could have said the success of that Batman film was so big that they probably would have kept those cereal boxes for 5 years, let alone 2.
Yeah, that's possible.
Well, that's possible. Batman Returns came out not many years later, so
get a bit of dosh of them now. Those Batman cereal boxes, I've seen them. They get bought by collectors, don't they, these days? Those cereal boxes.
Yeah, idiots like me. That's why.
One of my other little nuggets. I love the Y-front selection from the Boz. The strip club, Tit for Tat, great name.
Yeah.
It took the 80s rule book for action, and we've mentioned this, and dialed it up and took every point possible. And 80s boobs were everywhere in this film.
But it took the 80s handbook, rolled it up, and smashed it over someone's head.
I think I got to be honest. I think if you and some friends sat down and played a drinking game, which was every time we see some TNA or some boobs in this film, you take a shot. I think you would die from alcohol poisoning after the first act.
Yeah, you wouldn't make it to the halfway point. No. Absolutely not. No
Do you know the one that got me? And it was boobs just for the sake of boobs. The woman who was playing pool, and I think she breaks off maybe. And so it's quite a powerful shot. And then she gets up, and then her top just opens. And I was just like, yeah, okay, here's another indication of the type of film that we're getting here.
Yeah.
That's the films. I wrote this down actually, and I noticed that the film kind of follows a very strict rule set, which is the 3 Bs, which is boobs, bikes, and Bosworth. It doesn't really.
The Holy Trinity.
It doesn't follow. I think if more films followed the triple B, I think they'd be. I think that's a sure way to get an Oscar for a young film.
You've mentioned the Boz, and that's my favorite aspect is actually the cast, because I think the cast, including Bosworth, are very good. I actually quite like Bosworth as a screen presence. I'm not saying he's got a whole lot to do, and he's very strong, silent type, isn't he? But I think he does it quite well, and especially when he's playing off one of my favourite supporting actors in Lance Henriksen. I love Lance Henriksen, and he is superb in this film. But I think Bosworth is holding his own.
A little fun fact about Lance: he wrote all his own dialogue for this film.
That doesn't surprise me.
I didn't know that.
Well, according to IMDb, this is. But yeah, he wrote all his own lines.
Wow.
Good God.
Well, he had some of the best quotes in the film.
Yeah.
Really? Oh, that's absolutely crazy.
What's the line you wrote down, Ad?
What?
What's the line that you wrote down about? What did my daddy say to me?
I didn't write that down. That's what when I messaged Stuart and said we just finished it. Take it away, Stuart.
Oh yeah, it's in moments like this that I think of my father's last words, which were, "Don't, son, that gun is loaded."
I made a note of it as well. It got a huge laugh in my household. So I was watching her on the laptop on YouTube while my other half was watching TV, so I had headphones on, and I just burst out laughing. She was like, what's going on here? Oh.
I think you did your wife a disservice by not turning whatever she was watching off and putting Stone Cold on for the rest of the night.
Quick, you need to watch this.
Can I just add a little bit of information here? Did you know Bosworth's performance earned him a Razzie nomination, which I think is a clear indication of how ridiculous the Razzies are. They're obviously not watching films properly.
It's all just bloody self-promotional fluff, all that golden turkey and all that stuff. It's just, it never picks the properly bad stuff. It's just what they think will get them a bit of notoriety.
No, they saw an American football player in the lead role and just went, he's not supposed to be an actor, we'll pick him.
Yeah.
But
as you say, he's absolutely fine. They play to his strengths. They don't give him a lot of emoting to do, which is probably sensible, and he's absolutely fine in it. I thought he was great. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Because when he said American football player, to me, Prague, I was a bit like, oh, here we go. But no, he was good. I'm surprised he hasn't been in more films.
Because I knew that he had gone into acting because I'd seen a documentary on him, because he never made it properly in the NFL, and he was always termed, the Americans love the term, a bust, which means you're predicted to succeed, but you never actually do. So there was a documentary on him, and it obviously highlighted that he went into acting because he gained so many injuries through playing football. But again, come back to it, I never really took notice of the films that he acted in. But again, I think he's a good screen presence.
Interesting fact about him as well. So he was big in college football, wasn't he, Prague, beforehand? And he wrote then, when the draft was coming along, supposedly wrote to a lot of NFL teams to say, if you are going to employ me, I won't turn up for training, and a few other demands as such. And I don't know why he did it. Prague may know from a documentary, but I think it was because he wanted to go to a specific team, but at the same time, he was this massive ego, wasn't he, Prague? He also got done for anabolic steroids, didn't he?
He had a troubled sort of college career where he was predicted to be this massive star, and he was a star in college. And going into the draft, he was seen to be taken quite high. But then, of course, as you said, he wrote to all these the NFL teams saying that he wouldn't turn up. And I think it was a bargaining chip in terms of, because at that time, you didn't get a set contract for coming into the league. So you could bargain or barter for a higher contract. I think that was part of the reason why he did it, so he could get as much money as he possibly could. Maybe he knew that the injuries had taken a toll, so he was just trying to get as much money as he could before he had to retire.
Do you reckon he made the same amount of money making this film?
I reckon he made more money signing his NFL contract than he did from this film.
Yeah, I reckon. Just a quick shout out as well to, is it William Forsythe, the guy who plays Ice I was there for ages trying to work out how I knew him. So I finally gave in and Googled him. And he's in The Rock, isn't he? He's the FBI agent.
That's what he's from. I still
Yeah.
didn't know until you just said it. Ice. I was the entire time I was like, what's this guy from? What's this guy from? What's this guy
The
from?
thing is, there's only about 5 years between that and The Rock, but he looks a lot older in The Rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Can I just say, we'll get into it later on, but one of the best deaths in the film from Ice.
Oh, a hell of a crash.
One of the best funerals in any film we've seen.
Absolutely.
Burn
him on his bike in front of everyone.
Yeah.
Hey.
It was more of a case of I couldn't work out like how they've got the body. Did they just pick him up off the street, or did they steal him from like a mortuary somewhere?
You don't need to know, do you?
Oh, I needed to know, and I wanted it to be that they stole the body.
They would have gunned up the morgue to get that body.
Oh yeah. Let's face it, they gunned up everything else to do everything. They probably just shoot up like the local shop where they want some milk. So I think it's
the morgue probably left that body outside the morgue, waiting, knowing that they were coming to get it.
Yeah. Don't want the trouble. Just leave it out.
Yeah, shouldn't have been out. But Ice's death, like when he tapped the back of the car or the back of the bike or whatever it was, and just burst into just the biggest explosion of all time. That's another running theme in this film. Explosions.
Oh yeah.
I've got it as a mention within my changes, but only because I have a pet hate with films where, like two vehicles touch each other and the moment they touch, they explode, which doesn't happen in real life. But I'm willing to allow it within this film because of the type of film it is.
You could say that they're actually consistent with their inconsistency.
Yeah.
They've set up their own rules of physics
and
physical dimensions, but they do stick to them. Yeah.
Because go on, sorry, bro.
Oh, I was going to say, I get exactly what you're saying, because the first time it happened, I said out loud to Adam, what is that? That would never fucking happen. But of course, you go through the film, it keeps happening, so you're almost like, okay, this is what they're doing. So
you get a bit disappointed if something doesn't explode.
Yeah, exactly. And it happens at the end with the helicopter and the motorbike.
Yeah.
That's I'm going to wait until we get that, but I've watched that scene so many times.
Come on, well, we may as well move on to favourite scene. Do you want to talk about that? Because it is, yeah.
Oh, mate, I've watched it countless times now. I watched because I have it on Blu-ray, but I found it on YouTube as well, so I could just skip to that one bit on YouTube, and I just be on my phone and I'll just skip to it. And it's the fact that the bike is like a missile for a helicopter, and I think the thing that steals it is the helicopter pilot's like last moments on this earth, just seeing a motorbike flying out of a window.
I think that is the secret subtext of this film. Bikes are also cruise missiles because they act like them in every way, shape, and form throughout the whole film.
I saw it slightly differently. I thought, just don't fuck with a bike.
Yeah,
but I got to give that film because I didn't expect that to happen. Like, I don't know if anyone else saw that coming a mile up, but like when he's playing chicken with the bike, I was like, he's always going to shoot him. But then this film does this quite a lot. It takes you one step. It just goes beyond your expectations, and
yeah, everything's up to 11. Yeah.
With all the explosions that were happening, when I saw the helicopter, I thought, if they don't do something with this helicopter, this is going to be the biggest letdown ever. Thankfully, they paid it off, didn't they?
Can I just say as well, Lou after the Met, the most metal funeral ever with Ice's funeral, Prog did, because that's coming into the third act of the film, and Prog did turn to me and say, I hope this film lives up to it and has a good ending. I hope it doesn't have a shit ending. And I was like, I'm sure it'll be okay, because I didn't think the film could do anything more at that point, so I was a bit nervous myself. And
it sticks the landing, does it ever?
Oh yeah, well, the final 20 minutes are my favourites. I'd say that's my favourite section of the film, because the siege on the court is just
so much budget.
Oh.
See, when this was first described to me, I assumed it was some low budgety thing, almost samurai copish in that it's all sort of nonsense and fun and that. I didn't realize it had like $25 million in like 1990 to make the bloody thing. Everything explodes twice. It's amazing.
I was stunned when I saw how much they spent on it.
the helicopter like flying that low to the ground with all the crowds there and stuff. I was like, what?
Yeah, fair, and I will say to them, fair play for that scene. That because I was wondering, is it fake? Is it a model? Is it on a some sort of boom or whatever? But no, fair play. That helicopter's low, and there's lampposts or whatever posts either side of the road, and I was thinking, hats off to that pilot. I'm no helicopter pilot. I'm no expert, but I was impressed. Let's put it that way.
Stu, have you got a favourite scene?
I mean, anything in the last 20 minutes. Yeah, I absolutely agree. It absolutely blows through. One of my favourite things, but this is more something that's sort of through the film and drops off very sharply in the third act for very obvious reasons, is that Ice never trusts John Stone stroke Joe Huff, whatever we're going to call him. And it's this weirdly realistic thing in such a sort of hyper nonsense film. Because Chains, obviously, he doesn't trust him at first, and then he slowly earns his trust. Ice is like, nope, this guy is dodgy as fuck. I don't trust him. I reckon he's some sort of policeman. Of course, he's absolutely right, and that's why he's killed him, blah, 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 blah. But it just threw me that I wasn't expecting something like that, something as realistic. It's the sort of film where you'd expect him almost to turn up and go, hello, I am also a Nazi biker. And they go, good, you must join us. And then just the rest of the film, But now there's the absolute weirdly realistic distrust of him throughout the whole of it.
That's the other thing. You've got a great cast in the film, and the actor who plays Ice is like a really good actor. They're all really good actors and stuff, but like, so he sold that really well. And I like that as well. I like that Ice never betrayed that mistrust. He always he never trusted.
We said that at the time though, didn't we? He's the smartest guy in that whole gang.
Absolutely.
Even in the strip club right at the beginning.
Can I mention one other scene before Andrew gets to his?
Yeah.
And it's the moment of reflection that John Stone has on his motorbike. I think it goes on for about 2.5 minutes where he's just driving through the valley.
I have watched that scene so many times. Like, I've watched that scene. I was laughing so much at that scene.
I turned to Adam at that point and I said, the music is fucking brilliant in this film.
It is.
It's so on point every time. Go on, Anne. Sorry, bro.
Supposedly as well, that was the boss's own bike. He was into bike building, and that's his own bike. So again,
I think the film's just gone up another half point in my eyes for that.
Because I was, and also somehow the constant shots of Bosworth just on his bike never get boring. They're just cool.
So I'll pick some other things, other scenes that I liked, and I think some of these I like for the absurdness of them, right? So you've got the opening scene. I know Prog said he probably wasn't his favourite in the film, but I loved it because it set the scene for me. I also then loved how ridiculous the next scene is of him and his lizard. So he puts all that stuff in a blender, and I half expected, we've got a Rocky moment here. He's going to drink the raw eggs. But he puts in orange juice, Snickers, the eggs with the shells, a banana, and hot sauce, and then puts it in a bowl. And I think, he's going to give it to a dog. And no, it takes it, ramps it up again. He gives it to is it a monitor lizard or whatever it is?
I thought it was a Komodo dragon.
Yes, a Komodo dragon. Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing.
I can remember that from
and I will say that probably is one of my favourite scenes from an enjoyment point of view, because it took me to a level, it ramped it up, and then it ramped it up even more with the lizard at the end.
I love that section of the film. I love the bit when the actor from Raising Arizona, I can't remember his name, he's in Friends in Raising Arizona, pops up in loads of sitcoms.
He plays the FBI agent. I think it's Sam McMurray, is it?
Yeah, but I think that's great character building, that stuff, because then he goes to his flat and then he pulls the sheets over, and it's that I think it's like 5 minutes in, it's already like the 20th pair of boobs you've seen in the film, and he's just like, and he's wearing his white fronts as well, which Prog loved.
Yeah. He's like, in those opening scenes, the boss is like some camp 80s, 70s gym fitness instructor. In his attire. Well, look at the picture behind Adam at the moment. And all I could think of was, do you know Call on Me, the music video to that. I was thinking, put him in the background, he'd be well into it.
Oh my god, that's just living on his own with his lizard. It's just perfect, isn't it? But the weird thing is, right? They had a different director originally who lasted about a month, and I don't know what it was. There was some sort of implication he was alcoholic or something, and it was basically ruining the film. And they got rid of him and hired Craig R. Baxley, who did Action Jackson, came on and sorted it all. But apparently they've spent an entire month filming like this backstory for Joe Huff, where he's got like a wife and kids and things like that. And Baxley just came in and went, "No, we don't need all that. He just lives alone with the lizard. It's fine." That's not important to the film at all. You know?
See, there's a director's cut, or there's some other cut out there that this should be made.
There is a genuinely and far more violent cut, because it was going to be like NC-17 in America, but they cut the violence back so it got an R rating, and nobody seems to know what was cut or anything like that. There's no known, other version.
Well, hopefully we're going to start we're going to get the ball rolling on not only the popularity of the film increasing, but maybe we'll get some sort of special edition Blu-ray release.
Release the Baxley cut. Release the Baxley cut.
Do you mean all three of our listeners are going to start the movement?
Well, I reckon off Stuart recommended it to Adam, and then us two watching it. I've also told a couple of other people about it, and I'm sure Adam's told his mates about it. I tell you now, this is going somewhere. This is going to go somewhere.
All my friends who watch films like myself, I've said watch. I just said all I did was just WhatsApp them a picture of the post and said just watch this film, and that's all we need.
Yeah,
that's all you need. Yeah.
All right, look, we've waxed lyrical about this film as regards to its good points. No doubt there are some changes that people want to make. Is there anything that you want to throw out? Anyone? Ad?
The Baxley cuts. That's the only change we
need. Yeah, we need more violence. Yes, that's it. Then it's perfect.
Okay, for me, for changes, right? I can't really give this. I can't change anything in this film because there are plot holes. It does the old thing where they could have just killed Joe Huff right there and then, but they don't. They leave him alive. But
strap him to a bomb and stick him in a helicopter instead, because apparently they're fucking Blofeld now. Yes.
But if you corrected those changes or whatever, you wouldn't have tactical bike missile going into a helicopter at the end. So you can't change anything. This film it's not a perfect film, yet it is a perfect film. Do you know what I mean?
No, it's exactly what Stuart said at the beginning, isn't it? It's the worst and the best action film ever.
I got a couple of nitpicks, but again, I'm not going to say these as in, they tainted my overall thoughts on the film, right? So the first biker gang get together, someone machine guns a beer off someone's shoulder. Now, it's funny, but it never happened. Yeah. Then you've got...
It could happen, but they would be more...
Okay, yeah, so something different would have happened.
The outcome would be different.
Yeah.
Obviously, Adam touched on the fact that Joe Stone or Joe Huff, whatever we want to call him, he could have died 2 or 3 times at least if people killed him when they were supposed to kill him.
Yeah.
I think that's just a staple of 80s action films, really. So it's kind of something you've got to get used to if you're going to go through all these films.
Can I just say, my favorite example, it just came back to me now. My favorite example of someone not killing him when they could have is the man that literally drive by someone with a grenade. He throws a grenade at the guy and blows him up in broad daylight in front of everyone, and then doesn't shoot Joe Huff in the face when he has a chance. It's like, mate.
Dimitri,
yeah.
Yeah. That was the main one for me. Yeah. If you're going to put a gun in his face after blowing someone up, why didn't you pull the trigger? But anyway, the other one I had was I did think Stone got changed his confidence a little bit too easily. That's the only thing, especially when you think Ice is like his best mate or the best man he has and is warning him, and Chains just isn't listening. That was the only thing.
As Chains doesn't like being told what to do, you see.
That's
Yeah, he's just being all. I don't know. I'm making it up. I'm
No,
Craig
no,
Baxley's lawyer now, apparently.
I think you're onto something with that. He's got an ego, isn't he?
Yeah.
Well, maybe in the Craig R. Baxley cut, which will hopefully get released on 4K in the next couple of years, there'll be like we'll finally get the 3.5-hour version of the film where he wrestles with his whether he should trust John Stone or not.
Yeah. But purely through the medium of violence and gore, apparently. Just shooting people in the legs while he's thinking about it.
So while we're on changes, I will make a suggestion, right? And I don't want it to happen. I wouldn't have done it, but I think it would have helped the film's success. I think if you would put Sly or Arnie in this film, it would have been box office success.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, yeah, you get your big name star in there. But it was Bosworth's first film, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was, yeah.
Well, I was thinking that as well, but I know I love Sly and Arnie, but I'm happy with it being Bosworth.
Oh no, I am as well.
Mm.
I am as well. I think the tone of the character would have been slightly different as well, because as we've alluded to, he's the strong silent type in this film, possibly because of his acting. But if you had Sly or Arnie in there would have been so much more dialogue for those two actors, because they want the attention almost, and they're the star, so you've got to give them that. So they probably would have been they would have been some sort of tonal shift, I think. But I'm glad Bosworth is in it because I enjoyed him in the role.
I think the actor you would get for this, but with a bigger recasting you could do to get the same sort of result as this, would be Bosworth to Kurt Russell. I think
that's exactly where I was going to go. Kurt Russell.
Tango and Cash style film.
Sylvester Stallone is the Komodo dragon.
the party was born to play. Yeah.
And Terry Hatcher's Chains.
Yeah.
Oh man, I'd pay money to see that.
Well, you can do thankfully deep faking technology is getting better now, so maybe that should be.
Oh yeah, give us a couple of years. Yeah. All right, I've got something to ask you guys, because you've seen the film a lot more recently than I have. This literally only occurred to me when I was thinking about it this morning, right? So the ultimate plan of the Brotherhood and Chains and everything is to kill the guy who's running for, what is he running for?
Senator or governor or something.
The whip,
yes.
the district
the
attorney.
whip. That's the man, yes. They want him out of the way, and they want to kill all the Supreme Court judges as well, because he's anti-crime and all this, basically to send a big message: we are the Brotherhood and you cannot mess with us, and we will kill you literally where you work, and all this kind of stuff. Don't they actually succeed in that? Don't they actually kill them all beforehand?
Yeah, there's a pile of like judges, aren't there, up on in the courtroom, and what's his name? Chains guns them down.
Yes, he could. Doesn't he kill the whip as well? That's the bit I can't remember.
He does. He kills. Yeah. He kills everything in that room.
Yeah,
everything is dead.
I do think the main purpose though was to bust out the leader, wasn't it? Because Chains wasn't actually the leader. I don't think. I think the other guy.
It was.
The guy who killed the priest at the start.
Yeah. I didn't realise he was the leader.
Right, I didn't catch that. If that's the case.
Yeah,
that's a good. Because one of my questions was going to be they've gone to a hell of a lot of effort to get this one guy out. They've lost numerous guys doing it, just for another gang member.
I thought the whole thing was to send the message that they can't be messed with, and you can't arrest us or we'll kill you all.
I think that's in it, but I took it that the guy who killed the priest was like one of the high ups, and they wanted him out.
I think Prog's right. Yeah, I remember that, like at the beginning of the film when they were setting up all the story, there was some conversations. But
when you say all the story, Ad,
that was literally all the story. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, that's convoluted plot. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of vaguely remember that as well. Yeah, but Change is way more menacing and dangerous than the bald guy that kills the priest. I buy Lance Henriksen's way more scary than him. So yeah, it maybe one thing you could change possibly, but
Can I go on to my changes? So we mentioned a couple of them already. Should have been released in the 80s. We're not going to go out much on that. At times, it looked like an episode of the A-Team mixed with Cobra. So, and
You
I
Hold
think
on a
that's
minute
fair.
Are you honestly telling me you wouldn't watch a TV show like that?
oh, damn right I would. But I'm just saying, it didn't look like a Hollywood blockbuster. It looked like a TV series, like the A-Team.
Okay.
In just the way it looked, the way it was shot, the quality. Bear in mind now, I watched it on YouTube, so the quality wasn't great. But that's not to say I didn't love it. But I'm just saying that's what it looked like. I do think Joe Huff or Hoff or whatever his name is a terrible name. But he then has this amazing name of John Stones or whatever his name is. So I would have potentially given him a slightly better name, but anyway. The whole thing happens in the courtroom. There's explosions left, right, and center. There's people being killed left, right, and center. Joe Huff, whatever, walks out of that courtroom and no one questions him. No police officer says to him, you know, put your hands up in the air, put your guns down. He walks out with a gun. He's got blood pouring. He looks like a biker. Are you telling me every one of those coppers knows who he is?
Oh, yeah, that's his reputation.
That's the heroic exit that you need at the end of the film, isn't it? And the fact that the credits roll over him still walking away from the court, it's like the cherry on top of the cake, isn't it?
That was the most badass ending I've ever seen.
No. Again, I wouldn't change anything about this film, but if you wanted to try and make it a little bit more believable, something to consider.
I can imagine a cop say, I can imagine one of the cops saying, "Go and get Huff or go and arrest him." Like, no.
Yeah, I'm not going anywhere near him.
Have you arrest Huff? He's got to go feed his lizard.
They're about to sound the guitar riff. Don't you taste it?
Then a couple more things from me. He rides at nighttime with his sunglasses on, and he's got the most ridiculous sunglasses in the world anyway. But still, it's all about the look. I get that. But the final thing I would change, the FBI agent that Prog mentioned earlier, he kills Chains, and I part of me just didn't like that. All of a sudden, I was thinking he's a little bit like Billy from Beverly Hills Cop, in that bit geeky, and I was just thinking, I didn't want him to do it.
You know what that was?
Die Hard.
I was just going to say it was Al from Die Hard.
Yeah, it was Die Hard first. I think
Yes.
it was, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That's a little bit nicked then, isn't it?
I was trying to put my finger on what film, like a supporting lesser character, shoots the main bad guy, and of course it's. Or no, he doesn't. He kills Carl, doesn't he, in Die Hard? Yeah. It's not the hands.
No,
but yeah, I didn't necessarily like that element of it. I would have been more than happy with Stone Cold, whatever his name is, killing him.
Pulling his head off, I think.
Yeah, something ridiculous. At times, right, I did think this film, I did question to myself, is this film a parody? Is it trying to be a parody of 80s action films? And I don't think it is,
No.
but there's elements
there's
where
a thin line, don't get me wrong, but yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
They take an 80s action to 11, and when you take it that far, it's on the cusp of parody, isn't it?
Right, come on. We've spoke long enough about it. I do genuinely think this is an amazing film. I'll tell you straight away, it's a recommend from me if you're the type of person that wants to be entertained and loves a good action film. If you're the type of person that wants some arty-farty, Oscar-type film, stay well away from it. But if you want to be entertained, and you probably grew up in the 80s and the 90s watching these type of films, watch it. Because there's a group of guys on this call that hadn't seen it previously and have loved it. So why wouldn't you recommend it?
I completely agree with. I think it's criminally overlooked.
One thing I want to bring up before we started recording this, we were having a quick little conversation without giving too much away. And Stuart, you said that there was going to be a sequel to this.
There kind of is, but there isn't. So about 5 days previously to the day we're recording this, I was going through a load of scans of VHS covers to discover Stone Cold 2 starring Brian Bosworth. And I'm like, what? In German? What? So I looked into it to discover that Bosworth, a few years later, made a film called Back in Business, which in Germany was released as Heart of Stone. I see what they've done there. But then for the VHS release in Germany, they directly released it as Stone Cold 2, Heart of Stone. And Bosworth's character in it is again called Joe, although with a different surname. So I don't know if they dubbed it or got around that or whatever. But yeah, it was literally released as Stone Cold 2. And I watched it 3 days ago. And it's fucking awful. It's nothing to do with Stone Cold, obviously, but also it's cripplingly tedious, like farcically. So I fell asleep watching it and I wasn't tired. That's not a good sign. It was absolutely dreadful. But
man,
there we are. That does exist, but kind of doesn't exist.
My excitement was up there then, and then it just every other sentence it went boom, boom.
Oh yeah,
no.
I mean, I'll send it to you if you want to see it, but you don't want to see it. Trust me.
He's Joe Alcott in Back.
That's it. Yeah.
And have you obviously you do a bit of research on the box office and such, and I looked into a bit of the background about it, but I don't know if you. I think there may be a few reasons why this didn't take off, and I think the main one is because it's Bosworth in the lead. It's not an action star, but also have you seen the films that were released in '91, and not just the films, but the action films released in '91. You had Terminator 2, Point Break, Out for Justice, and Last Boy Scout. So,
yeah, every single one of those with a huge star in it.
Yeah. As Stuart said, it had a hell of a budget on it, 25 million, and I can imagine. Plus, that they've gone through 2 directors, so possible multiple shooting of scenes, and we mentioned already there's a totally different backstory. I don't reckon there was much money left for bloody marketing at the end of it.
That's probably true, actually. Yeah,
because we would have been 10 when it came out. Okay, we wouldn't have seen it in the cinema. It would have been rated 18 in the UK. But it's the fact that we just don't know it. It's quite strange.
Yeah,
it's just. It does boggle the mind though, because I've seen films held in a much higher regard than this, but are way worse and way more boring.
Well, I would argue of the 4 action films that I listed released that year, I'd say there's an argument that 2 of them are worse than this film, and I would say Last Boy Scout and Out for Justice are not as entertaining as Stone Cold.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Point Break is. I mean, it's a different beast, but it's kind of a special beast. And obviously Terminator 2 is Terminator 2, so we won't get into that. But yeah, I'd said Stone Cold is better on most fronts than the other 2,
Yeah.
But maybe that just says something a little bit about our mindset or our enjoyment sort of criteria.
This film brings out that sort of base, that base level of people where you're just like, I just want more blow-ups, more bikes, shooting, more machine gunning. You just
boobs, Bosworth,
boobs,
bikes, blow up, everything else.
I'll say this: when I was watching this, I thought I was 16 watching an action film from the 80s for the first time.
Yeah.
Again.
It's again, it's another reason why we do this podcast, isn't it? Because every now and again, you either revisit something and you think, I've forgotten how good this is, or you come across a gem like this, and is it the greatest film in the world? No, but has it given me an evening of entertainment that I won't forget for a while, and that's what this gave me the other night. So
yeah,
can't complain.
Absolutely.
I hope
Stuart, sorry, you didn't ask you. Would you recommend?
Oh God, yes, I already did. It's pure entertainment, as you absolutely say, from start to finish. There's not a dull moment in it. I mean, most of it kind of doesn't make sense, and everything is ridiculous. But hey, it's massively entertaining. What more do you bloody want?
Yeah, exactly. Right, we will wrap up there. On the final note from me, there is an executive producer on the film who's uncredited. Do you know who it is?
Oh,
Let's all take, right, three of us take a guess now. Is this going to be someone left field?
It's a famous actor.
gotta be an action guy, isn't it? Gotta be.
I'm gonna say Stallone.
No.
Okay.
A big actor or
Big actor. Big from 80s anyway. 80s and 90s.
Anthony Hopkins?
No.
I'm trying to think who was into making. Oh God, who's the Planet Hollywood group? There was Bruce Willis.
No. It was Michael Douglas.
Never.
Yeah, I didn't know he was sort of into producing films, but anyway, he's uncredited, and I don't know why. Whether he's uncredited because he probably saw the final film and he didn't think it would get anywhere, I don't know. But he's a fool if he thought that. But anyway.
Was it part of the game to produce this film? I don't think it was.
Yeah, God no, he should have been in there. He should have had a cameo at least. Anyway, on that note, thanks for tuning in. Podcasts come out every Wednesday. Don't forget to hit us up on social media if you want a specific film, and check out our YouTube channel for content every Friday. Cheers all.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
And don't forget to watch Stone Cold, guys.